Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Crime Family. I am your co-host, Lisa, and I'm here with my sister, Katie, and my brother, AJ. And today I will be telling the story, and I am doing the case of Madison Scott. I actually had only heard about this case not that long ago. I had never heard of it before, and I hadn't realized how big of a case it actually was. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. No, Katie might have.
I think it sounds familiar, but I can't think of the details right now.
Yeah,
But
okay.
you might jog my
Uh,
memory.
yeah, okay. So Madison Scott was a young girl with a bright future when she disappeared from a campsite in British Columbia in Canada in 2011, and she seemingly seemed to disappear into thin air. Cops are still no closer to finding out who is responsible and what happened to Madison Scott. So it's Madison Scott, but her family and her friends all say Maddy, so I'm probably just going to call her Maddy because most of my notes say Maddy. Just side note. So it was a Sunday morning in the town of Vanderhoof, BC in May of 2011, and 20-year-old Maddy Scott's parents were concerned. They hadn't heard from their daughter since Friday night when she had headed out to go camping with some friends at Hogsback Lake. It was her friend's birthday, and there had been like a big birthday bash at the lake, which is about 15 kilometers from where Madison lived in Vanderhoof, BC. So Madison and one of her friends were planning on camping overnight at the lake, and they packed the overnight bags and a tent, and they left in Madison's truck. So at Hogsback Lake, there's like a Forest Service campsite, and it's right on the lake. And some reports say there's about 3 or 4 actual campsites, and then there's like a big lake with a dock, and it's a very popular place from all accounts. And like a lot of people have a lot of like, bush parties there, and it was just a really big party area. So it had been a normal Friday night when Maddy left to go to the party. Her mom later says in an interview that she had did with the Express, and she said her and Maddy had lunch that day, and then Maddy left to go camping, but had forgotten some tent poles, so she had to come back home, and then she left again that night. So her mom said her and Maddy were texting all night until about 11:30 p.m. the night before, and the next day, Saturday, Madison's parents had found it strange that they had not heard from the daughter, but since she was a responsible 20-year-old adult, they did report her missing right away. They did call her at least once, but it went just straight to voicemail. And her mother, she said she wasn't too concerned about this because she knew cell service could be spotty at the lake. But when Saturday turned into Sunday, and when they still hadn't heard from their daughter, they decided to drive to Hogsback Lake themselves and see what was going on. So when they pull up to the site, they find no one. But they do see Madison's white truck, and they also see her tent, but her tent is like completely flattened. Like it looks like it's just down. I actually do have a picture of it. It's just it's just like a completely flattened tent. So they immediately go to her truck, but the doors are locked. So they peek in the windows, and they see Madison's purse and backpack, but not her cell phone and no truck keys. And Madison's mother said when she saw her daughter's belongings in the truck, that was when the real worry crept in because Maddy never went anywhere without her purse. So they decide to call the police right away. And when police arrive, the 2 lead detectives immediately start constructing a profile of Madison. So Maddy was close to her siblings. She has a brother, Ben, and a sister, Georgia. And after graduating high school, Maddy joined her father in the logging industry, which is like the biggest industry in the small town of Vanderhoof, BC. And police quickly learned that everyone loved Maddy and no, everyone only had great things to say about her. And she was very well liked in the community. And she was an avid outdoors person and she loved sports. So right away, this becomes a huge search. There were search and rescue teams from 5 towns and cities altogether. So police quickly determined that around 3 a.m. was the last time Maddy was seen alive by partygoers. And then around 10 a.m. is when one of her friends came back to the campsite and she doesn't see Maddy anywhere. So like between 3 a.m. and 10 a.m. roughly is the timeline. Although some reports say it's between 4 and 8:30. Grid searches of the area begin immediately from the campsite, and helicopter searches are conducted overhead, and the nearby lake is searched. And on Monday, May 30th, the official search and rescue team with additional volunteers continue the grid searching around Hogsback Lake, and more helicopter searching is done. They thoroughly cover the whole area around the campsite and lake, but they do not see any sign of anyone leaving the area on foot or ATV on any of the trails through the woods. So the community starts putting up missing posters. And then throughout the next few days, the RCMP investigation continued, and a team of 14 members is assembled. So her friends, family, and volunteers, like I said, they continue grid searching for days and weeks. All the trails are searched by ATV and foot. House-to-house canvassing is done. People across the province of BC are contacted to spread the word and put up posters. A Facebook group is started and a temporary website is formed. And so the volunteer search group covered a huge ton of ground. So the initial search for Maddy involved an extensive area with helicopter searches covering approximately 2,788 square kilometers. So it's like roughly 50 kilometers by 71 kilometers. And this search spanned east to west between Isle Pierre and Fraser Lake, and north to south between Fort St. James and south of Paddock Lake. So it was a huge area that was searched. Grid searches of all the trails around the Hogsback area, nearby gravel pits were searched, and the Canadian Rangers actually spent a whole weekend searching. For those who don't know, it's like a vast, rugged wilderness. It is called the Great Wilderness for a reason. It's like it offers immense, like, undeveloped spaces, and many areas are only accessible by backcountry trails, by water or by air. And Vanderhoof, British Columbia specifically, is considered to be located in the wilderness or on the edge of it, and it has a reputation of being a wild and wonderful region. So trying to find one person in this vast wilderness is like finding a needle in a haystack, the cop said. It's just woods for miles, basically. So RCMP start interviewing and polygraphing people that have been at the party. So police say that they spoke to all 50 people at the party that night, but they had not been able to identify anyone who had a grudge or a reason to want to harm Maddy. And on the Justice for Maddy website, though, which has a ton of information, it says there were about 150 people at the party. And no one reported seeing Maddy. I mean, no one reported seeing her at all, which is not true because she was there. So that's odd. They even find out that the next morning at around 10 a.m., some party goers had come back to the campsite to clean up, and they saw her tent, and it was still standing at this point. And a truck was there too, but no one checked to see if Maddy was in the tent. And there was no other tents or campers around. It was just her tent. This time, right now, it wasn't flattened at this point. It was still up. And there was nobody around, and they never checked to see who was in the tent. So after talking to everyone that was at the party, there's one detail that emerges that is troubling for police and her family. Maddy's friends had left Maddy completely alone at the campsite that fateful night. Like, that's the one thing that they know for sure. Like, they all just kind of left her.
So, like, the party that, I don't know if you said this or maybe I missed it, but the party that was happening out there, was it people that she knew, or was it going to be just a random party with a bunch of strangers?
That was supposed to be just a birthday party for Maddy's friend. But another party actually happened on that same night, and this party had been posted on Facebook. So at the end of the night, the two parties kind of formed into one. Constable Tom Wamsteker, who's the lead detective, said that as far as Maddy knew, other people were going to be camping that night. It wasn't just going to be her, but as it turns out, as the night got later and later, people packed up and everyone eventually left, including a girl named Jody Bulldog, who had promised Maddy that she would stay with her. So Jody is brought up a lot in this case. A lot of people have negative thoughts about her. There was a lot of suspicion on her at first. So she actually said, she did an interview with 48 Hours, and she said that even now, years later, people still think she's a horrible person because she left her best friend out there. And she said she still has people writing on her Facebook that she killed Maddy. So Jody says that the police questioned her very hard for days, right away. And the two questions they kept asking over and over again to her were, did you kill Maddy? And were you there when Maddy was killed? And she goes into more detail about the night of the party. So she says that the party was only supposed to be people that they knew. But like I said before, there was another party that night as well. Apparently, people had posted on Facebook about the party, so it turned into this huge Hogsback Lake party. And Jordy says she knew most of the people at the party until the end. She said at the very end, people came that she had no idea who they were. And then, according to Jordy, the party turns rough. The people had started a fight, and they started a fight right behind where Jordy was sitting. So she left to go stand by the fire. And at some point, Jordy is injured. She gets injured. I don't know if she was injured from, like, she was drunk, and I don't know if she got like a drunken injury or like the fight broke out and she got hurt in that. But she's injured. And so her boyfriend carries her to a truck, and they tell Maddy that they're leaving. And according to Jordy, Maddy's response when they told her they were leaving, she was like shocked. She was begging Jordy not to leave because Jordy was supposed to stay with her and in the tent. And she begged Jordy not to leave. And Jordy's like, well, come with us then. And she said she didn't want to leave her truck or a tent there. She was worried something would happen to them. So she's like, actually, I'll just stay. Like, I guess we'll stay here. I'll be fine. So Jordy and her boyfriend leave at around 1:30 a.m. But by 10 a.m. the next morning, Jordy said she was feeling guilty for leaving Maddy alone. So she goes back to Hogsback to help Maddy pack up and to grab her things. But when Jordy got there, she said she saw no Maddy. But she looked around and figured like she saw her truck. So she thought maybe Maddy was sleeping in the truck. But she does notice that Maddy's tent was a mess. So it was like, she said the tent door was wide open and the blankets and pillows were pushed to the side. And she said her rings were outside the tent, and Maddy never took off her rings. She said her rings and earrings were on the ground, so it was concerning for Jordy. But this whole ring thing is a huge part of the case. Like when the birthday boy came back the next day around 10 to clean up, he didn't see any jewelry on the ground. Like he never saw anything. He just so that they're saying like the jewelry was never there. They a lot of people focus on the piece of jewelry outside the ground that Jordy said she saw because other people came to clean up. They never saw it. Jordy said she went to get a sleeping bag on that Saturday morning and she was on her hands and knees and grabbed a sleeping bag, exited the tent again, and zipped up the door to the tent. When the birthday boy came and cleaned up the campsite, he didn't notice any jewelry, but he did notice the tent door being zipped up because she had zipped it up. And then they say one would assume that if he saw any jewelry, he might have like picked it up and put it in a neat pile by the tent door, thinking Maddy was like inside sleeping and was going to get it later. But there wasn't. The guy said the guy that came after Jordy said there was no jewelry. So I just find that interesting. Then that night, actually Saturday night, there was another party at Hogsback Lake. About 150 people in attendance showed up, and they said there was no jewelry there either. They got questioned. There was no jewelry. They noticed her tent, but they were just partying around the tent in her truck. And they also said Madison's phone stopped sending a signal about 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. So anyway, it was revealed that Jordy was one of the last people to see Madison, and her and the last people to lead the party were focused on intently after the investigation, after she went missing. And Jordy said the police talked to her every day for 3 months. She was considered a suspect, but she took 2 polygraphs, what she passed, and eventually she was eliminated as a suspect. But there's still, to this day, suspicion on her. So police continued following up on tips that they received, and they start following up on cell phone records, but there is nothing. There's no sign of Madison anywhere, and no one has said they saw her. There's a 28-year-old man named Fibion Borson, but he goes by Frib. So I'm going to call him Frib, but that's his name. But he was telling friends that he knew what had happened to Maddy. He was also a logger from Vanderhoof, and police said he was a friend of Maddy's, and they had spent some time together socializing. And Jordy kind of alludes to Maddy and Phibbs kind of being a couple. And Jordy says she couldn't really believe that they were together because Phibb was bad news. He had a troubled life and he had abused drugs, but his mother had told police that her son was turning his life around. And so, of course, when they find out that he's a suspect, there's talk in the town that Frib owed people money for drugs, and then they had abducted Maddy to teach him a lesson. So that's a theory that people grab onto. But police did investigate that theory, and Frib takes a lie detector test, and he passes. And the cops say, based largely on the fact that he passed the polygraph test, they clear him. The RCMP clear him as a suspect. But, however, 2 days after he was cleared, Frib then goes missing. And 2 weeks later, investigators found his severed head in an abandoned house in a nearby town, and they never found his body. So,
shit.
I know.
I did not expect that.
Me either. I was like, what?
No.
Phib's mother said she thinks his son was killed for a paycheck he had cashed the night he went missing. And eventually 4 suspects ended up being charged for Phib's murder. And police say there's no connection between his murder and Maddy's disappearance. It's just a weird part of the story. So 4 suspects end up getting charged, and for his murder, they find who did it. They never found his body, but they've been charged, put away, and that's kind of case closed in a sense, even though they haven't found his body. So a year goes by, then another, and then another. There were private searches in 2012. And 2013, more missing persons posters were put up far and wide. And then between the years of 2012 to 2018, there was like the annual poker ride at Hogsback Lake to keep awareness and local community involved. And proceeds went to the local community association and funding for Find Maddy awareness. So a poker ride, had no idea what it was, but it's like an organized, non-speed, dependent event where participants on motorcycles, horses, boats, or like bicycles travel a scenic route, and they stop at 5 to 7 checkpoints to draw playing cards. And participants pay an entry fee, and they receive a map and a scorecard and visit designated checkpoints. And at each stop, a volunteer records a randomly drawn card on the participant scorecard. So that's kind of what they did every year to draw attention to the case. And then eventually multiple podcasts started discussing this case and then the theories that they'd never ended. And still throughout all this time, police had no one. No evidence, no suspects, nothing. Maddy seemed to just disappear into thin air. So like I said, there had been no sign of foot traffic on any of the trails nearby, so police were convinced she had to have gotten into a car. But the search area, like I said, was vast and endless, and it seemed impossible to find it because some trails you couldn't even get. You had to get by boat or by air. So Madison Scott's parents, they become frustrated with the lack of leads and evidence, and they're becoming more and more heartbroken with each day that passes. So they decide to begin their own investigation separate from the police. So they create this huge board that had a list of people who had been at the party, and by their name, it had when they arrived, what they left, who they arrived with, and who they left with. And this huge board went up in the Scott's basement. And on it, they retraced all of Maddy's movements throughout that whole day she went missing. Maddy had gone to a liquor store and then had bought snacks a little later, and she is seen on security camera just hours before she vanishes in the woods. They also had a category on this big whiteboard labeled questions, and some of the questions were, why was she left on her own, and why did everybody leave? And I think for her parents especially, those two questions were the most, like, perplexing. Like, why did her best friend leave her there by herself? Why did everyone leave her? Why was no one ever checked on in the tent the next morning when they went to clean up? Why did Jordy never look in the truck to see if Maddy was in fact sleeping there? So that was the two questions that they just couldn't understand. But based on this separate investigation, there was still no leads. It led nowhere, and $100,000 reward of information was established. So Hogsback Lake is only a 15-minute drive from where the Scotts lived in the tiny town of Vanderhoof. And Vanderhoof sits along Highway 16, which I know you guys know. You did a case on it. And it's Canada's infamous highway called the Highway of Tears. So the Highway Tears is like a 724-kilometer stretch of highway in British Columbia, Canada. It connects Prince George in the east to Prince Rupert on the Pacific coast in the west. And this route is infamous for the high number of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And since 1969, at least 18 women have gone missing or have been murdered in the very area where Maddy went missing. So I bring that up because one of the people that popped up on police radar, and one of the people that people kept saying over and over again, was the serial killer Cody Lijabukov. So he was convicted at the age of 21 in 2014 of murdering 3 women and 1 teenage girl between 2009 and 2010 in or near the city of Prince George, BC, which is 100 kilometers east of Vanderhoof. So 6 months before Maddy went missing, another girl had actually vanished in Vanderhoof. 15-year-old Lauren Leslie in November 2010 had set out to walk along the Highway of Tears from Vanderhoof to Prince George. And she did this often hitching rides. And so did many other, like that was many women and men that would hitchhike from one town to the next because it was a small town, no Uber, no taxi. And that's where a lot of people would go missing. These women would walk from one town to the next on this dark highway, and they would get picked up and never were seen from or heard from again. So Lauren's dad had gotten a call at around midnight, and it was the police asking if Lauren was at home because they had found her ID. And so a cop had actually stopped 20-year-old Cody because he had seen a black pickup truck kind of like squealing out from a dark logging road. And something about it made the cop decide to stop him to see what he was doing. And they figured he was probably like poaching or hunting or doing something. So they stopped that. Cody said, yes, he was poaching. So they take a flashlight and they follow the truck's path back towards the logging road. And then a little bit a ways in, they find the body of Lauren, and she had been savagely murdered. So anyway, it's revealed later that police were able to tie Cody to 3 other murders along the Highway of Tears. But police believe there are many more victims of his. And now he has now, since he's serving life now for those murders. And just something else, like the Highway of Tears is a huge, awesome investigation. There's been like 1,400 persons of interest. 60,000 people have been interviewed. Anyway, I just bring that up because they thought maybe Cody could be responsible for Maddy's disappearance. But he had actually been in jail custody for months before Maddy disappeared. So he was ruled as a suspect for this case. So he didn't do it. Like I said before, this was a huge case, an investigation. And like a group of friends even traveled to the Grey Cup in Vancouver to distribute 6,000 flyers around Vancouver asking for clues. And it was just, the Highway of Tears is the perfect dumping ground. And it was just such a daunting task for the police to search. They didn't even know where to begin to search that whole stretch. And it really was the perfect place to get rid of something. So in Vanderhoof, BC, the small town who always rallied together, they were just baffled by the disappearance. Everyone was. It was just, there was no sign of her, no evidence. She literally seemed to have vanished. So Madison Scott's face was plastered everywhere on every billboard, every store window, and on truck bumper stickers. But like I said, no one ever came forward, and there was no sign of her. And I also have like a timeline actually that's about the night of and the next day when people came. So they say around 8 o'clock on that Friday night, she goes to Hogsback Lake with Jordy. They gathered some firewood, and according to the Facebook event, Garrett's the birthday party starts, and then around 8:30, Maddy realizes she got the wrong size tent poles and she has to go back home. So she goes back to her house to pick up the larger tent and poles, and then she talks briefly with her mom for a bit. And then around 9:30ish, she arrives back at Hogsback and sets up the tent and settles in for the night. And then it says like Madison Scott spends the night in her tent while people continue to party, and the party continues outside. And then I think around 11:30, she has a text conversation with her mother. And according to witnesses, she's still in the tent at this time. So it seems like she was in her tent for most of the night. And then it says around 3 in the morning, Madison received an incoming call. And according to her mother, it was from a guy that she knew. And then around 3:30, Madison is still in her tent. It says 3:30 here, but then, Jordy says it's actually 1:30 when they leave. But it says, so she's still in her tent. She's still in her tent when Jordy asks Scott to leave with her, but Madison refuses to leave. So they leave her. People say at around 3:30, that's when like she goes missing. That's the last time anyone's really seen her. She was by her tent, and then at 8:30 in the morning, Jordy comes back to Hogsback to pick up her sleeping bag and clothes, and discovers Maddie's tent unzipped and her sleeping bag pushed to the side, but she didn't see Maddie anywhere. And then the party host reported that he saw Maddie's tent when he went to clean her after the party. He saw that the tent was zipped up. He didn't check it out as he thought that she was sleeping. So he didn't want to go in. Like, he just left her there while he was cleaning up. And then, like I said, then that night, a larger party happens on Saturday night. And this party had approximately 150 people in attendance. And then 12:30 noon is when she's reported missing on Sunday when her parents come. I originally thought, like, when her parents come, the tent was flattened. But when it had been flattened when Jordy came, I thought that was very weird. But I guess they had a party that night. And I guess, I don't know, they flattened the tent. I don't know, like, I don't know, like, the tent the tent being flattened on Sunday morning when it had been up when other people came to clean
But how
up.
close was the tent to like the party site? Like right on site, or was it like a little
I
bit
think so. I
further
mean,
down? Or
it doesn't really say. It just said there was a party that night, and yeah, I don't know. The tent was flattened. That's what I got from that.
I just picture it being like a camp. Her campsite's kind of like in the middle of all these other people just coming, and there's like her campsite's just there, and everyone's just around partying because she's still there. I was gonna say, yeah, and someone probably falls on the tent.
That detail of her tent being flattened when the parents came, but not flattened when Jordy came, I fixated on that so much. And then I found out that there had been between Jordy coming and the parents, there had been another party that night. So I'm like, oh, maybe. I mean, it's like, they don't even see someone's in the tent. They just like started to like lay on it. Like they started to like, I don't know. It's just weird that they're partying around this tent. And they also, and everyone at that next party on Saturday night is saying they never saw that they right before the sun went down. Everyone's saying they never saw any jewelry outside the tent. Comes back to the jewelry. There was no jewelry outside the tent, like Jory said there was. So anyway, just always just that the rings on the ground and the earrings on the ground that that Madison apparently never took off. It's just weird that that detail is just always something that is mentioned.
So obviously she was. So I guess they're assuming that she was dead before the second party happened.
She was gone, and her mother does say it looks like she was ready she was. And then another part that thought maybe that the tent got flat because her parents said it looked like she was in the process of disassembling her tent and grabbing her stuff, and something happened to her right outside her tent as she was packing up. I don't know. It's just the tent being completely just flat. I don't know. It's just odd to me. I think that makes more sense than people just kind of wrecking it. I'm not sure if someone's in there or not. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. You have like a big party and there's tents. Like people, like have you ever been to a festival when there's like tents? Like people they're like fighting. They throw chairs at tents and people are weird. And I've seen multiple tents being flattened with people in them. But
yeah, yeah.
Also, her stuff was in the tent, right?
Yeah, so when Jody comes, she said all her stuff. Like Jody went in, Jody said the tent doors was open all the way, and all her sleeping bags and pillows have been pushed to the side, which is weird. Not like she had just been sleeping in all night. And so Jody goes in there to get her stuff, and she zips it back up. And that's why when the guy comes back to clean up, he says, "Oh, the tent was closed, and it was still erect."
Yeah, but when it's flattened, there's her stuff still in it, right?
Yeah.
Because that's why I was thinking, because you said she was in the process of packing up, and that's why it was maybe flattened. But you would take your stuff out before you flatten it.
Oh, and that's what her mom just her mom just threw that out. She thinks that she was standing outside the tent, getting ready to pack up, and she was taken.
Or unless she just wanted to get out of there, just was like, I'm just gonna roll up everything, my tent and all, everything in it. Yeah, and then just deal with it later, just to get out of there.
Jody is always brought up in this case. She still gets negative attention because people don't understand why she goes there Saturday morning. She feels guilty about leaving her friend there in the woods. Who wouldn't? And then she comes back to help clean up, and she sees the truck and the tent, and she definitely checks the truck to see if Maddy's in there. And she opens up the tent to get her stuff, doesn't see Maddy. And all the Saturday goes by, and she doesn't say anything about Maddy. She hasn't called to see where Maddy is. It's not until Sunday morning when the parents come that Jody is like, oh yeah, it's just weird. Why did she mention? She just lets a whole day go by and she doesn't see Maddy or hear from Maddy all day. And she's not at a truck or that's suspicious to police. I think that's why police for 3 months the police really pursued her heavily because that didn't make sense for them. It's just a little weird, a little suspicious. I think that you wouldn't even look in the see if your friend was sleeping in the truck like she thought she was. No suspects, no evidence, nothing was ever found. Her truck keys were missing and her cell phone. And she also was wearing flip-flops that night. So she was wearing flip-flops, so she went off into the wilderness, and flip-flops was something nothing was ever found of hers. All the leads had been exhausted, and she literally vanished. 12 years to the day Madison went missing, May 29th, 2023, RCMP announced they had found her remains in a rural property on the east side of Vanderhoof, BC, which is roughly 18 kilometers from the Hogsback Lake area where she disappeared 12 years prior, after a search warrant for the property was executed. So the property she was found at was owned by people who actually attended that party with Maddy. So apparently the father of two brothers who were at that party owned the property, and the property search was part of a long-term investigation by the RCMP Major Crimes Section Special Projects Unit following years of searches. I could not find they never revealed what led them to that property. Anyway, so they found her remains on this guy's property, and so 2,000 people actually attended her vigil. There's a community. For a community the size of 4,500 people, almost half of the whole town was at this vigil for her. It was a huge, massive break in the case. But that's kind of where it ended. No cause of death to this day has ever been revealed. No arrests have ever been made. And as of early 2026, the investigation into the death of Madison Scott is still active or ongoing. And the $100,000 reward is still up for grabs.
Why would they not arrest that person?
I don't know.
Yeah, and why do they have a search warrant for their property?
I literally Googled it. I could not get my straight for. I said, why did they search this property? And they just said it was executed after a search warrant. Like, what led them to that property? And why was no one arrested? Like, her bones were found on the property. No one was ever arrested, still to this day. And no cause of death was ever revealed.
Was the search warrant in because of this case, or was it like something else they had a search warrant for and they just happened to find her? It's so weird.
The property search was part of a long-term investigation by the RCMP Major Crimes Unit, and it came after years of searches. It does not say why they chose that property, which I find is so weird. Like this, and I find that no one was ever brought in for questioning. Like, no one who owned the property. It's so strange. Like
I find it weird because it's like not only was her body found on the property, but like they can also connect the person who owned that property to the party that she was last
I
seen
know.
at, which is also, so it's not like it would be like, oh, she was just randomly dumped on someone's property who might not be connected, but like that person has a connection to the party. So that seems like enough to at least bring them in for questioning, or like, wouldn't that be grounds for arrest?
Was this a massive property where it would be like, if it was like, I guess it was like a huge property, someone happens to stumble across your property, you wouldn't necessarily see them there. If it's like wooded, you know what I mean? You're not going to like scour your entire property every day, right? You know what I mean? If it's a huge like wooded property. So it's not like it was a small little like townhouse or something with a body in the yard.
It says the specific acreage of the property has never been disclosed. They're not saying anything. And it's, she was found May 2023, and there's still been no arrests and no cause of death. It's still unsolved. I don't understand. I don't see this ever when they're not even saying how big the property is. They're not saying, they never once arrested, but like, no one was considered a suspect in that house, I guess. It's just odd. It's odd.
It's very weird. It is.
Right? I couldn't believe that I was like, was anyone ever arrested who owned that property? No. Like, no one was ever questioned. Like, no one was ever, like, considered a suspect. And they didn't say how big the property was. It says, but the discovery was a major development, but no suspects have been publicly charged, and the investigation remains active. And it says, like, it indicated the land is owned by the father of brothers who attended the same party as her. But
I mean, I guess I know, like, the reason, like, what's the point? I mean, I guess just to say they found the body, but like, usually, like, if something's still unsolved, you go to the public and release stuff and like
I know.
a plea for information. But it's like, it seems like they have all the information they need, or most of the information they need. So what are they? But it's still not solved. I don't get it.
Like, why did they go to that? Why did they search that place? It didn't say. It just said because of a search warrant executed. But it's like, why was the search warrant
Well, there must be
executed?
something. Like, there must have been someone from the party said something. They found texts or something in her phone. Like, there has to be some.
They never found her phone.
Oh, they never found her.
Her phone and her keys. Her truck was locked. So her purse and her backpack were in the truck, but the truck was locked. Her keys and her cell phone were gone with her. Apparently, she just had flip flops on and the clothes she was wearing. So it's like, what is the theory here?
Did they find DNA on the tent or something in the tent?
I have no idea.
But it's weird because I guess it wouldn't have been enough evidence to like arrest them on the spot, but enough to make them search the property. I don't get it.
I don't know anything about people that own the property either. Like, it's odd. I never had a case where they just there's nothing they're not mentioning anything. So I don't know. Like, I'm not sure what the theory is. Like, was she kidnapped the night of the party, or like in the morning when she was getting ready to go, someone came back and attacked her? Everyone at the party is saying like they had never even seen her. It's so odd. Like, the Scott family is still offering $100,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest and laying up charges. Like, there's been no arrest. There's been no, as far as we know, nothing. They're not announcing it anyway. Maybe they have people of interest, but it's been 3 years and they still haven't haven't mentioned anyone as a person of interest. And And they're just saying, like, anyone with new information is regarding her disappearance is asked to call Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477 or the RCMP at 778-290-5291. And there's also, like, the Justice for Maddy website has so much, it's full of information. It has the whole timeline. It has all the news media stories that were covered, Facebook posts. Like, it's up and running to this day. It has a lot of good information in it, but it's a mystery. Like, I thought, like, they found her body, they found her remains, which the family is very, like, at least that happened, but it's, like, more confusing than ever now. It's like, so why was she there? I mean, maybe they told I'm sure maybe the family is more privy to, like, the cause of death. I'm sure maybe they know more than we do, but there's been no arrest, no persons of interest, and it's still a mystery. So a lot of people think, like, she was hunted by the serial killer of, like, the highway tears, but she's another missing person who's gone missing along that stretch. And like I said,
Yeah.
it's a perfect dumping ground for somebody. It's very rough terrain. You wouldn't last that long. Your body wouldn't have lasted that long without for bears and stuff get to it, you know. But I don't know if we'll ever find. I don't know if we'll ever find out what happened. Or it's crazy that they haven't brought in. They haven't made arrests or anything. Like those people. I don't know. It's just I'm just dying to know what made them go to that property, you know? And then why no one was considered a suspect in that house, you know?
Yeah. Like there's something missing that we don't know. There's like a missing piece here somewhere.
Also, like, I keep going back to her friend because when I first heard the story, her friend seemed suspicious, and a lot of people think, like, she is suspicious in it. And just, like, the pieces of the puzzle where, like, the jewelry wasn't there. Like, she saw the jewelry at 10, but at 10:30 when the guy came to clean up, the jewelry wasn't there. So did she take the jewelry or something? Like, you know?
Well, the
And
jewelry thing is so weird because it's like if she never took it off, first of all, why was it off? If someone like forced her out of there, why would they force her to take off her jewelry? Like,
And why would she take off her jewelry outside go to bed? Like, would you take your jewelry
yeah,
off in the tent?
I know that's weird.
And it's sad because, you know, she had thought, like, everyone was camping in that night. Her friend had told her, like, we're gonna camp there together. And then I think she went to sleep not realizing everyone had left her there. And then she wakes up in the morning, and maybe something happened to her in the early mornings, or maybe it wasn't until then following night something happened to her. I don't know. It's strange.
Why would her friend make that part up about the jewelry?
I know.
Yeah, that's
I
what I
don't know,
mean.
but
Yeah,
I
why say
know.
why say that if it's not true? Where did it go if it is true? Like,
Exactly. Yeah. Like,
Yeah, because that's what I was trying to think of. Like if like if the friend knows more than she's saying,
mm-hmm.
but like yeah, it's like well, what's the point of that? Like, what would be her motivation for like saying that the jewelry was there and it wasn't? Because everyone else is saying it wasn't, so she would have to have a reason why she thinks that saying it was there
Yeah.
would like make
Yeah.
more sense. I don't know.
maybe
It's
somebody else
weird.
could have came along and just like stolen it, right? Like, I don't know.
It's just the jewelry is just a piece of the puzzle that I just. Anyway, yeah, so Jordy is always going to be, I think, linked to this case.
Okay, so they never found Maddie's phone, but did they ever check Jordy's phone to see if she like texted Maddie? See, like, are you? And then
See, I don't
maybe she
know.
never got an answer, and then she's just like, well, maybe Maddie's just mad at me because I left her, so she's not going to answer. So she didn't think it was that suspicious that she wasn't answering her.
Yeah, and, like, they never found her phone, but they got her cell phone records, and they said, like, the last time her phone was on and working was 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. But they never, like, said, like, that the records show, like, incoming calls from Jordy or outgoing calls to Jordy. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. And then they say that phone call at 3 in the morning that her mom said was from someone that they knew. They think it was that Fribbs guy who had been, like, kinda, like, seeing Maddy. And I don't know, I think the whole Phipps thing, him going and saying he know what happened to Maddy, and he had, like, a history of, like, a shady history, and the fact that he just passed a polygraph and he was cleared instantly is a little weird. And then his second, like, yeah, that's a little weird. Maybe he knew something about it, that's why he was killed.
Yeah, that's kind of what it seems like.
Like, as soon as they got wind that he was talking about it, they got rid of him, you know? But the force that they found who was responsible for his death, and they're in jail, and the police said there has been no connection. It's just so it's odd. Like, is she gonna be another mysterious Highway of Tears murder that's never solved? It's like, what happens in those woods? It's
It's
crazy.
crazy. I was gonna say, yeah, it is like the perfect dumping ground. Like, anyone ever been
Mhm.
caught for murdering someone on that highway? Like, no, people just go missing and murdered, and like nobody is ever caught.
And it's
It's a
even
little
when
bit
people talk
scary.
about it, like people say like she was hunted in those woods, and I always wonder, is the Highway Tears? So we know this one guy, Cody, but is there like multiple serial killers, or is just one who's been responsible? Like, it's just it's was it someone at the party who came back for her, or and did something to her? I mean, the police say there was never any evidence from talking to all people. Like, there was never, they could never determine a link between, like, there was no one that had a grudge against Maddy, no one who had a motive for wanting to hurt her. So it's just a mystery to this day.
It's just weird. What I don't understand is it's like, how do they not know who it was that called her? Like, she got a call from someone that she knew, but how do they know that but don't know who it was?
That's what all Maddie's mom said is like the call that she received was from somebody that not only Maddie knew, that her parents knew as well.
But
And I saw it.
do they
So
know who it
people,
is?
I don't know. And that's all it
Because
says.
that's what's weird. It's like, it's weird that they would know that, but then not know who it was. So they must
But
know
yeah,
who it is. They're just
maybe
not
they're not
saying it.
allowed to say, yeah,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was thinking when you were saying it. It's like, somehow they know that she got that call, but then they don't know who it is. That's weird. But I mean, maybe they're just not saying who it is. So they not allowed. But if it was that Fritz guy, like, he's dead. So
Yeah,
why
it
does
just
it matter
says,
if they
like,
say it?
it is believed to be from the son of a family friend who was camping nearby, though the exact content of the call has not been publicly disclosed. And while it was the last activity on a phone, it was initially described as potentially unimportant to the investigation. I mean, it's just odd. I don't know. It's like you had three different parties happening in the span of that weekend. I mean, the crime scene. I mean, how would you test for evidence? It was like at one point there's like 150 people at the second party. There's 50. Like, how do you even begin to?
Yeah. Like, even if there was DNA, it'd be like, just because there's people everywhere, like, drinking, throwing stuff
Like,
around. Like, yeah. I just
Yeah.
picture this
Crazy.
crazy party where people are like jumping on tents and stuff.
Like, if the tent was like flattened, like, it could have people's DNA on it. Like, if they fell into it or jumped on it, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But that doesn't mean it's related at all, though, right? Like, they were just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still an ongoing case. They're still looking for answers. It's still. They say they're no closer to it being solved. So it really is a mystery.
But how
of
can they
what happened
not
to her.
be? They found her body on someone's property who was at the party. How is that? How are you no closer?
Yeah.
Any-
Was it
Well, no
foul
close
play?
to
Maybe they can't tell. Maybe she just wandered off.
Yeah, well, they do say that originally from the beginning they suspected foul play almost immediately because they
Yeah. I
thought
think that seems
Maddy.
obvious, but
Yeah, and they said Maddy was an avid outdoors person, and it wasn't like they just thought like right away she wasn't the type of person to like not communicate with her family and just leave. I mean, she had flip flops on and no purse and bag, like she's heading off to the woods to do what? And it's like to the initial like cops pretty much right away did suspect foul play. But yeah, the cause of death was never revealed. And I don't know, like, if it was found, like, yeah, like, how big the property was is important, I think. Maybe because it was so massive, the owners weren't really, like, anyone could have dumped. If it's,
yeah,
like,
that's what I'm
huge
thinking.
woods they
Yeah.
own, yeah. It could
Mhm.
be anyone from the party that just dumped it there that happened to be on the property. They didn't know. I don't know. Maybe that to me, that
Yeah.
makes sense as why those guys would never, like, not considered suspect. To me, that would make sense why they were kind of, like, never.
But it would at least, I think, be cause for questioning, bringing them in for questioning or some type
I
of.
would have to assume they were questioned. I would have to assume. They must have been.
Yeah.
But they were just never
Yeah.
charged, and they were left.
Yeah,
They were
They were
never
just
considered.
ruled
sure
out.
they had to be. Yeah.
Maybe they are considered suspects, but no, police never said. I don't know. There's just who knows? It could how they ever going to find the person who did it. Well, especially when the people at the party saying they never even saw Maddy. Like it's like, well, she was there. Just weird.
Maybe it was a whole like whole
Conspiracy.
big group in on it together.
Yeah.
And they're all said, "Oh, didn't see her." But
It's also like,
that's why I asked. That's why I asked the question early on of like, was it just a bunch of strangers? Because that would make sense if like nobody knows her. Then they'd be like, "Oh, I don't remember her." But like, obviously, if it's people who know her, they would know if they saw her or not.
Yeah, well, it makes sense for the second party, right? It was just a bunch of random people that showed up and she just happened to still be there. They wouldn't necessarily know if she was there or not.
yeah.
But the first party, for sure. I mean,
Yeah. But like even during that first party, at the end of the night, people showed up from that no one
yeah,
knew.
that's true. Like 2 parties combined,
So,
kind of, but still.
I don't know. I think something happened to her that first night, and I think Saturday night, by the time Jordy and the other guys gave the key to clean up, something had already happened to her.
Yeah,
I think it's
that's what
something.
happened too.
I don't think they were because I don't think they were partying with Maddy in the tent. The tent was squished. You know what I mean? I don't think they I don't think unless Maddy.
Yeah,
was
I
partying
feel
with
she
them,
definitely wasn't in the tent that second time. Yeah.
like during the second party, she
No.
was already gone. I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just
So, Lisa, what do you think Jordy was involved? Like, what do you think?
I don't think she was. I don't know. I think like there may be more that she knows that she's not saying. I don't know. I feel a little.
I
It's a
feel like
little.
I was thinking like maybe there was like sketchy shit going on. Maybe they were all on drugs. The people who gave them the drugs were there. They don't want to mention it because then it could lead back to these
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
what I was thinking too. It was like drug activity and like maybe Jordy sort of maybe has an idea of what happened and she doesn't want to say anything because the same thing happened to her kind of thing.
Like people do say like everyone there like that was Maddie's friends had like before they left they had told Maddie you should come with us, stay with like just come with us. A lot of them didn't want to leave Maddie there, but Maddie wanted to stay. Like I mean, they still left her regardless, but like a lot. I mean, they could just be saying this to like make themselves look better. But they said like we told her to come with us, and we all told her we were leaving and like begged her to come with us and said no. I mean, whether they really did it or not, I don't know. But by the end of the night, it was just her by herself in a tent, and I don't know if she's aware that no one else was there when she was in the tent sleeping. But it's just terrifying to think about.
I feel like they definitely didn't beg her. I feel like that seems like an exaggeration.
Right? Yeah, I know.
Like, I mean, maybe they asked her and said, a couple times they asked her, but like begging her,
Yeah.
that seems like an exaggeration.
I mean, I just think of George. Like, I don't think I would leave my friend there. We were planning on staying at the tent together. Like, she said she was injured and she left. She could be that injured. She came back by herself the next day.
Like, if you're someone who cares that much and that you're willing to beg her to go with you, you would just stay with her. If you were that concerned.
And especially in the woods. If you and your friend planned to sleep in the tent together, you stay in the tent together. I feel.
Yeah. But also it's like, you're there like, oh, we begged her. So obviously you care enough, but then you gave up. Okay.
Yeah,
then
I'm
you
going
can
to
stay
leave
here
in the
by yourself.
woods.
Yeah. Like, that seems weird to me. Like, if you're obviously someone who cares enough to beg her, you would just stay with her if she wouldn't want to go. Like, I don't know. Seems weird.
It seems like she was kind of taken while she was in her tent sleep. Because her truck was unlocked, or her truck was locked, and her car keys were with her. So I feel like she had been in the tent with the keys in her phone, probably like beside her, or maybe her keys were in her pocket. I don't know. Like,
yeah, or maybe she like left her tent to go to the bathroom or something, right in the middle of the night.
Took her jewelry off.
Yeah, that
I don't know
doesn't make
about
sense.
the jewelry. I know I don't know about the jewelry, and it's an interesting part. Like her rings and stuff on the ground. It's like, why put it on the ground? I don't know.
Thing, she could have taken all her jewelry off and like set it on like a blanket or her clothes or something, and then someone rifled through her tent and like took her stuff out and it just happened to fall out at the same time, right? Like, doesn't necessarily mean she put it outside purposely.
And someone else saying, oh, the jewelry wasn't like if it had been there the night of the party, it would have got stamped on and stuff, but it was in pristine condition when it was found. Like someone else saying that, but then other people saying, well, when we came at 10:30, there was no jewelry. It's just it's something that like people fixate on the ring. Like, was there jewelry outside her tent or not? Like, and I can't seem to get a straight answer.
So if I have the timeline right, so Jordy was there first and said there was.
No, they came
jewelry, and
together. Oh no, sorry.
No, but I'm saying like she went there, said there was jewelry first, and then the people who came after said it was not there.
Well, according to the timeline that this case file site put together, it said they came around the same time. Like 10 o'clock, Jordy shows up to get Maddy, and then around 10 like Garrett, whose birthday party had been, he comes to clean up, and he saw no jewelry. And no one saw it throughout the whole day. Like, and then other people showed up for that next party, and it was still daylight out. And they even said when they were questioned, there was no Julie around the tent. Like, it's just weird.
Because like I was thinking, like if Jordy went there first and said she saw it, and like if we assume that's true, then someone else would have had to go to the campsite between that and the time that the other person came and took it. So why was there someone else at the campsite? It doesn't really give us any answers about that. But like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
a lot of people like a lot of people would always come back the next day to clean up throughout the day. Like at least they clean up after themselves, which is nice. They would always come back afterwards, some day after, and get rid of all the cans and bottles, whatever. So they could have been multiple people throughout the day come back to get some to clean up or something, But
Into her tent and around her tent. Like,
I don't know, and it's weird. Like her mother said, and Jordy said, like when Jordy came, the tent was wide open, the flat was completely down, and all her blanket and pillows were to the side. It doesn't look like she had been sleeping in it. Like it was all to the side.
That's
And
like,
so
okay,
she
I can understand, like, if you see an abandoned tent, it's like, okay, someone just left their tent. Like, I've seen, like, people just, like, get up and leave their shit, and, like, whatever, they just don't care. But, like, the car being there, like, her truck, like, no one just leaves their truck because they don't want it anymore.
Yeah, and she did, and by all accounts, she didn't go. She thought, and then since she goes into the tent, Jordy goes into the tent to grab her sleeping bag and pillow because, like I said, she's supposed to sleep there, and that's when she saw everything was pushed to the side, and she comes out of the tent with her stuff and zips up the tent. So that's why when the next guy comes, he says the tent was closed. But she's like, oh, I figured Maddy was just sleeping in her truck, but she never went to look and see if she was. I think if she had gone to look and saw she was gone, maybe she would have raised the alarm.
maybe she would.
I don't know.
Maybe she was afraid. Maybe she's afraid Maddie would have been pissed at her. She shouldn't stay. She's like, I don't want to. I don't want to deal with that. I don't know.
The police and even the police, like, they're like, it's just odd the way Jordy. It's just Jordy was suspicious to them right off the bat because of that. And she was one of the last people to see her alive when she left. Anyway, so she'll always be, I think, attached negatively to this case. And she said to this day, people still say she killed her.
And I also feel like whether or not the that guy's severed head, like whether or not that happened because he was involved or not, it also didn't help the case. Like maybe people didn't come forward after that because they were afraid that it was connected. Yeah, even if it wasn't involved, like related, but maybe people could think that.
I think we've seen lots of cases like when the investigation is ongoing, the police are very tight-lipped, always tight-lipped, but not like this. Usually the cause of death is revealed. Usually, like, there's something.
Well, unless they don't know the cause of death, like if it's just her bones.
Yeah, but
Like,
they could say that, though. They haven't even said that. They haven't said they don't know what the cause of death is, right? They just haven't said anything.
Yeah, they said no cause of death has ever been revealed. So
and that's different than saying they can't determine it. They looked and tried to find out and can't determine. Yeah. So that makes it seem like they know, but
I feel like they're holding that info in case if somebody knows, and it's because they were there, and it's not because it's out there.
Yeah, they do that, I guess, a lot.
I guess it just depends. I guess what makes. Yeah, I don't know, but her phone was never found, and as far as I know, her truck keys were never found. Yeah. Anyway, she had been so close by, and people like, well, had she been there for the whole 12 years, close by, when all the surgeries were being done, helicopter and like, was she there recently? Like, was she just got moved there, and then they found her?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But yeah, were they holding her somewhere? Yeah.
Yeah. What are the chances they just move her and then a search warrant is executed? I thought maybe she was there the whole time. I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember go walking in the woods somewhere, and I saw her poster before she was found. I mean, it was a massive case. Yeah, there's so much we don't know. I can't wait to hear the update that they like arrested somebody.
Do you think the guy with the severed head is related to that?
I don't know. Like, the cops don't think so. Like, literally 2 days after he's cleared as a suspect, he goes missing. And then his severed head is found 2 weeks later. And, like, it seems like the four suspects that were charged for that, you would think, like, that would be a logical explanation. Like, those four people could have something to do with Madison Scott. They think his death was gang related. And they think, like, a lot of people aren't going to come forward because they're scared of the gang, I guess. Because he did live the high-risk lifestyle. I don't know if Maddy, like, was a part of that or even knew about that, or I don't know. But it's just like an interesting part of the puzzle that he ends up going missing right after he like it's like her talking about the case and saying to everyone that he knows what happened to Maddy. So I don't know, but it's very strange. Do you think she got like? Do you think like she was missing got missing that night, or she was there all Saturday as well? No, she probably got missing that night. I don't think she would stay there all Saturday. She probably head home.
Yeah. I feel like she's definitely
Yeah,
went missing that first night.
yeah. And the fact that they all said like, "Oh, we never saw Maddy," but then it's like the timeline kind of alludes to Maddy. Like for most of the night, Maddy was in a tent. So maybe they just didn't think she was there. I don't know. It's just odd. It's weird.
Very weird. Very
Yeah.
weird.
So like I said, there's still $100,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest and the laying of charges. And anyone with new information regarding her disappearance is asked to call their CMP at 778-290-5291, or you can call Anonymous Late Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. And that's it. That's the case for today.
Crazy. At least they found the body, which like gives a little bit of like that closure, but it just opens up a whole new can of worms without any answers. So I feel even like it's like, and you feel bad because like at the time they probably thought like, oh, this is it, right? They're going to find what happened, and then it's like still 3 years later and it's nothing. Still, so I feel bad.
Yeah, like who knows how long it would take for them to arrest somebody.
We'll update you if anything happens. We'll provide updates as they come. So that's it for this episode of Crime Family. If you are a fan of the show, you can follow us on all the social medias. Crime Family Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube. So just type in Crime Family Podcast on YouTube. You'll find us there. That is where all of the video versions of these episodes are available, as well as on Spotify. You can find the video versions. But it's just the audio versions if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or everywhere else at this time. But so yeah, definitely go to Spotify or YouTube if you want the video version. So also you can email us, crimefamilypodcast@gmail.com, if you have any case suggestions or theories or feedback on any of our episodes or cases that we've done. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure you give us a review on your podcast app of choice, and make sure you reach out, engage. We'd like to hear from you. So that's it for this week. We will be back next week with a brand new episode and case. And until next time, take care. Bye.
Bye.